Nothing hooks me into a series quite like an intriguing world. Characters, plot, theme, etc. make me stick around, but oftentimes what draws me in is the world. So naturally, a very important piece of any anime, film, series, or otherwise, is world building. If there's nothing to ground me in the story, I have less reason to care. This is more of a priority in films where there's less time to waste sitting around due to the limited runtime, so it's important to get off to a good start or risk losing my interest. The quickest way to do that for me is, you guessed it, an intriguing world. For an example of this, look no further than the 2006 film Tekkon Kinkreet. Dropping you right into the action from the start, its world immediately grabbed my attention and didn't let it go. The unique visuals and wacky vibe I got from the first 15 minutes or so gave me just enough of a taste to want to see more. It served as a terrific introduction as well as an example of fantastic early world building. As for the rest of the film, well, today, under the scope, I take a look at Tekkon Kinkreet, an interesting, unique film about the importance of balance and finding one's identity. Tekkon Kinkreet takes place in the once prosperous, now rapidly deteriorating slum of Treasure Town. Crime runs rampant as criminal gangs war for possession of the city. Adventurous young kids, Kuro and Shiro, do their best to give the city some semblance of vigilante justice, protecting the streets from any who would threaten their home. When a seedy foreign entrepreneur shows up with plans of tearing it down and rebuilding it as a theme park, Kuro and Shiro not only face the increasingly daunting task of saving their city, but also of finding their identity. Tekkon Kinkreet primarily explores themes of balance and purity. Kuro and Shiro, literally meaning black and white, represent the Taoist principle of yin and yang, the natural balance of the universe. It's the idea that seemingly opposite forces are actually complementary and necessary to the other. Together, the two forces exist in perfect cohesion. However, one cannot exist without the other. When the balance is lost, so too is the whole. Kuro represents darkness, an uncontrollable, insuppressible force of power, while Shiro, on the other hand, represents the light, which contains the darkness and keeps it stable. Without Shiro by his side, Kuro is unable to control his violent dark tendencies. Without Kuro, Shiro grows weaker and weaker. Tekkon Kinkreet constantly highlights the importance of balance and the natural order of things, going further than just the obvious example of the main duo. Treasure Town itself can be seen as a representation of this duality, with the balance of crime and justice, good and evil, constantly called into question. The film also delves into themes of impurity as Kuro struggles to suppress the darkness within him, highlighting its extreme power and danger as well as the balance between the two. This part of the story was outstanding, but it of course had its problems. Tekkon Kinkreet's rich exploration of its themes is handled well, if not a little overdone. It pretty much beats you over the head with them, especially in the film's final third, when things take a turn for the trippy and metaphysical. For some, this won't be an issue at all, but rather a thorough and intriguing look into these ideas. For others, however, this will be a gross overkill. The pacing is fairly slow for the majority of the film, so I'm sure there are those who might find it boring. It goes through several time skips, expecting the audience to keep up. I didn't have any trouble with this, but some of you might. The film takes a giant shift in tone around the halfway point. It initially presents a story about two orphaned boys trying to protect their home turf from big business corporate masterminds, but proceeds to almost completely abandon this half of the plot in favor of the surreal, spiritual exploration of their duality. Almost as if they realized halfway through that they wanted to take things a different direction, so quickly shoved everything else to the side, essentially killing off any unnecessary weight. I would have liked to have seen more from this part of the plot. It presented an incredibly rich, intriguing world, but unfortunately failed to deliver on that promise, eschewing it in favor of the story of Kuro and Shiro. That story was extremely interesting to me, however, and I thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish. Its themes, while a bit overdone, still provided plenty of food for thought and made for the highlight of the film. Tekkon Kinkreet's story was far from perfect, but it did just enough things exceptionally well to leave a lasting impact. Character-wise, Kuro and Shiro are obviously the main attraction. Kuro is a violent, street-smart punk determined to do whatever's necessary to protect his town. Shiro, on the other hand, is much more carefree and gentle, often out of touch with what's going on around him, absorbed in his own illusions and fantasies. They provide the perfect complement to each other, and their development throughout the film is expertly done, as we get to see what happens when that balance is thrown out of whack. We don't get to see much in the way of their backstory, but you can kind of fill in the blanks for yourself. In terms of the other characters, there's really not much to say. When the film undergoes its tonal shift halfway through, most of the side characters are quickly dispatched of in favor of more screen time for our main duo. It's a bit of a shame since a few of them had shown some promise, namely Rat and Kimura. I would have liked to have seen more from these characters, even if it was at the expense of Kuro and Shiro, as I felt like they had more than enough development and screen time to go around. The main villain, and I put that in quotes because he's not much of a presence, is your typical megalomaniac with no real defining characteristics. Ultimately, you shouldn't watch Tekkon Kinkreet for its supporting roles, but rather the excellent main duo and the thorough exploration of their identities, something the film handles exceedingly well. Kuro and Shiro provide the film with more than just its thematic impact, giving it its heart as well. Tekkon Kinkreet's animation style is unique to say the least, and while some of you watching this may be a little off-put, I personally loved it. The backgrounds and art are incredibly detailed. The individual intricacies of each and every frame are simply put breathtaking, as it shows a tremendous amount of attention to detail. The vibrant color scheme only highlights this. The character designs are sure to raise some eyebrows, as the proportions are interesting to say the least. I personally found them to be a good fit for the crazy world, even if they aren't necessarily pleasing to the eye. In terms of the sound, there's really not much to say, as the soundtrack is pretty muted. It wasn't bad, but it didn't stand out much. The bits and pieces that did stand out were pretty good, but they were few and far between. Honestly though, I didn't really care. As interested as I was in the story and world, the sound was just an added bonus if anything. The animation, however, was the complete opposite, as the unique style immediately grabbed my attention and never let it go. So, should you watch Tekkon Kinkreet? From my vantage point, it's a definite yes. While it certainly had its problems between the slight overkill on its main themes and the somewhat rushed ending, I still thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish. The unique visuals created an interesting world I couldn't get enough of. The two main characters of Black and White served as an intriguing, symbolic, hell, maybe even literal representation of balance and duality that the film explored in depth. Tekkon Kinkreet seems to illustrate that without some sort of balance in the world, the natural order would completely crumble. It's a symbiotic relationship that ultimately proves the sum is greater than the parts. If you're looking for an entertaining story with an intriguing world and awesome visuals, this film is for you. So with that, I award Tekkon Kinkreet an approval rating of Watch, with a definite recommendation to do so, as well as an overall score of 3.95 yin-yang symbols out of 5, just in case the film didn't beat that metaphor over your head enough. It's far from perfect, sure, but with its superb use of symbolism and metaphor, was still a highly enjoyable ride that provided plenty to think about. If you're looking for something similar to Tekkon Kinkreet, check out Tokyo Godfathers for another great film about protecting what's important to you with a heartwarming touch. Since there isn't much similar to it, I kinda have to reach here, but you can also take a look at Ping Pong the Animation, as they have similarly crazy visuals and are both based off manga from the same author. I haven't actually seen Ping Pong, but from what I hear, it's really good, so you should definitely give it a shot. And that's all for me. For an explanation of the rating system, look in the description. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.